Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty Show. I'll be your host this week, Matt. You can follow me on Twitter at MattFFDynasty. And with me as always, my two brilliant co-hosts. First up, we've got Ali. You can follow on Twitter at FFDynastyGrill. Ali, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for that lovely introduction this evening. Doing really well. Thanks, Matt. Fantasy was very good this week. DFS was pretty good as well. So yeah, can't complain. And we've had a handful of late trades go on deadline day. So we've got a lot to talk about tonight. How are you doing, Matt? Are you recovered from your London trip?
I am, mate. Yeah, it was good to go for my second London game of the year. Getting to see the Jags against the Broncos. Yeah, it was a pretty good game, to be honest, for a London game. So all recovered. Missed quite a lot of red zone this week, sadly. So I'm relying on you two guys this week to be the main source of information this week as I lag behind. But with that, we'll bring on his second co-host because, as you said, we've got plenty to talk about tonight. So Kev, you can follow on Twitter at Dynasty_Go. How are you doing?
Get on the terrace. Good evening, boys. I'm doing pretty good, actually. Eagles won. Dynasty leagues went as planned, pretty much. Just one game I lost where I could have done with winning. So cheers for that, Mags. But in a really good place. It's very busy time of year trade-wise. Sort of fantasy-wise, it's been a mental day, but also real life as well. So I'm looking forward to talking some of the real-life trades and looking forward to a great show as well. I've got some smashing names to discuss.
Yeah, as I said, there's been plenty going on. I know a lot of fantasy leagues that we're in together, there's been trades flying left, right, and centre. But at the same time, the NFL, it turns out a bit like our football deadline day. And there's been plenty of trades going through today. So before we kick off with the main part of the show, we've got to talk about some of these trades. So we'll kick things off with the first trade that we saw go through today. That was TJ Hockenson going to the Vikings. So just wanting to get your guys' thoughts on this trade and how it impacts his fantasy value. Ali, we'll start with you with this one.
Yeah, so the Vikings obviously feel at 6-1 that they're pretty much all in. I can't blame them as well with how poor that division's looking where the Packers are at the minute. I think it's pretty decent for his dynasty value to go to a team that they throw slightly more pass attempts per game. I think they're a better offense than the Detroit Lions, although the Lions are putting up plenty of points themselves. I think it's a decent trade for him. You got to think that long term he's still very young. You've got Adam Thielen, who's not got many years left in him. He could really have a sizable role on this offense. Absolutely kills the previous tight end that they've got there at the minute. Although he's been ruled out for most of the rest of the season now. But in terms of his value, I certainly like it. He gets a bit of a bump in value. Not too much for me, but definitely sizable. And I think in Dynasty I'd look to capitalize off that and make a move maybe off him and capitalize on that bump in value.
Ooh, cheeky. So you're selling Hockenson. That's nice. I mean, first of all, I have to do it, lads. Irv Smith, what a joke he is. I've been hammering him for years, and I played him in my DFS lineups this week, and against the Cardinals were terrible, and he let me down. So unlucky, Irv. Such a sad day. Tough times, but Hockenson, I agree with you. He's gone to a better situation, more high-powered offense. Obviously, you guys know I love Thielen, but he hasn't met his expectations for me personally this season. I think he's looking slowly on his way out, so it's going to be a great opportunity for Hockenson to really take hold of that number 2 spot in a great offense. So, do I think he can make the step up to be an elite tight end? No, but I think if anything, it's a slight bump in his value. But also, Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Lions gets even bigger target share. Be happy with Swift as well. And Jameson Williams whenever he comes back, but his value just stayed the same, hasn't it, despite his injury?
Yeah, I agree with you both. I think it's a slight bump for Hockenson, maybe being a bit more of a red zone threat, like you said, Kev, with Thielen struggling a little bit this year. He can take that role and be something that the Vikings have needed. I think it's interesting now, obviously, a divisional trade. It's not often that we see trades like that in the NFL. So, definitely an interesting trade. And with that, another interesting trade, a team that's been struggling for weapons this year, and that's Chase Claypool going to the Bears. So, Kev, we'll stick with you. What's your feelings on this one? Chase Claypool going to the Bears. Is it a bump now in value for Chase finally?
God, it's tough, isn't it? I think he was never going to fulfill his promise on the Steelers with the arrival of Pickens. So it's good that he's got out somewhere rather than sitting the rest of his rookie contract and fighting for scraps as a number 3 weapon. So to be honest, I think he can be the alpha like in that offense as early as this season. Mooney is a nice complementary guy. Claypool's got the sort of size. He's flashed it. Hey, that sounded good, didn't it? He's got the size and he flashed it. But yeah, I think he's got a lot of potential. He's very raw. Justin Fields, we may talk about him in a little bit. I think it's great news for you. He finally gets a decent weapon as well. So yeah, I'd be happy if I'm a Claypool owner. I wouldn't want to trade him away today.
You had to, didn't you? But yeah, for me, I think the big winner is obviously Justin Fields, who I picked to speak about on this show. So I'll talk about him in a little while. George Pickens as well, the 2 receivers on the Steelers as well. Deontay Johnson, hopefully, we talked about his struggles, was it last week or the week before? So hopefully he can see some more or even more targets and some opportunities. And yeah, I think it's fine for Claypool. Darnell Mooney, you two don't really like Darnell Mooney. He's not really an alpha in our eyes. He's a good complementary piece. So yeah, Claypool could take over as that alpha as quickly as this season. Interesting to see if the Bears their passing output goes up at all. Whether Fields was not been passing because he's got some awful wide receivers and now he's got a decent weapon to throw to as well. So interesting to see how the offense plays going forward. But yeah, I think it's definitely a little bit of an uptick for Claypool.
Yeah, I think it's one of those trades where in fantasy we've got quite a lot of players that seen a bump in value. Obviously, Claypool, as you're saying, and like we mentioned, the Pittsburgh players, Postman Pat getting a little bit of a bump at the tight end, being that reliable guy from the middle, like you said, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, both getting a little bump as well. Fields getting a new weapon. So in terms of fantasy, I think it's one of those great trades where he's going to a place where there's not too much in terms of competition for targets. Obviously, Darnell Mooney is probably the only guy that you'd say is getting maybe a slight downtick in fantasy value, but then at the same time he's had a bit of a rough start to the year. So yeah, a great one in terms of us and fantasy. And with that, there's another trade that went through. This one's not going to have too much of an effect in terms of fantasy for this year. That's obviously Calvin Ridley going to the Jags. Ali, we'll stick with you. What's your feeling on this one? As I say, there's not too much in terms of implications for this year, but I think long term it's definitely interesting going to the Jags and being a potential key part of their offense moving forward.
Yeah, we know just how decent Calvin Ridley is when he's on the field. Absolutely fantastic wide receiver. And yeah, I think it's certainly an uptick for their offense. They've got obviously Christian Kirk, who looks to be their number 1, but is he really an alpha type receiver? Well, he's doing absolutely fine with the Jags right now, and it just gives them going forward. Maybe Trevor Lawrence next year gives them an extra decent weapon to pass to. So that offense could really take a step forward next year if he's in shape. I think he's actually tweeted, or I saw that he's not very happy with the move, but we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, certainly if you've traded for Ridley and when he's been sitting on the list where he can't play, he's obviously banned for this year, then you're obviously happy about it. It's going to give a slight bump to him right now, and then certainly towards next season his value is going to rise. So yeah, if you got him now, you're probably happy with the fresh start in Jacksonville with a really decent quarterback. So yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if he's unhappy. I wonder if there's certain betting rules in Florida. I'm not too sure myself. But yeah, I think just picking it apart. Trevor Lawrence, it's great news for him. If you own any of Lawrence, you're happy that there's someone in the building as such that you know is there for next year. You don't have to sort of second guess, will they draft a wide receiver? Will they get one in free agency? They've got him in the building ready to roll next season. Kirk, I don't like it for Kirk. I think a lot of Kirk's potential and promise was on volume, and yeah, I think Ridley he's a very talented receiver. I think that's going to really eat into Kirk. You're not going to see him sort of drop off the cliff, but I will be tempering expectations a little bit on Kirk. Maybe I'm just a little bit worried because I do have quite a lot of him now, thanks to you boys and Bean Counter. But Ridley, great move. He's moving to a situation where he's got a QB, whereas in Atlanta, you don't know it's going to be Dick or Dom or whoever. So yeah, you've got to be happy if you've got Ridley. If you flukily traded for him today before the news reached Cooling, then you've got to be a happy boy tonight.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a potential interesting move. Looking forward to next year when, as I say, with Christian Kirk and what he's done. I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Because, as you know, I'm a big fan of Christian Kirk, so I'm not going to throw too much shade at him. I think getting him back in that slot, we know that the guys out wide, Zay Jones and Marvin Jones, while they've shown flashes, neither of those guys are up to the level of what Calvin Ridley can do. So I think he's going to be a great addition on the outside for Trevor Lawrence. As you said, Kev, I think that's the key part of this. Trevor Lawrence getting a stud now on the outside, as well as he's got his slot receiver. He's got Travis Etienne as well, who can be used in the receiving game. I think if you're a Jags fan, you're getting quite excited by this young, talented offense that they've got put together there in Jacksonville. So yeah, really interesting trade that it's going to have some fantasy implications for sure. Looking forward to next season. And then finally, there was one more trade that just managed to sneak in before we started recording tonight, and that's Nyheim Hines going over to the Buffalo Bills. So who should we go with? Kev, do you want to kick us off with this one? What's your feelings on this move? Who does it impact? Who does it help Nyheim Hines moving forward?
Yeah, I appreciate you coming to me first on this one, because big Hines fan, not really, but he's all right, I guess. Yeah, I think Buffalo, you don't want your running backs going there for fantasy wise, just because it just seems to be a timeshare. Singletary's really good, but like last night or Sunday night, he started off the game. First drive was on fire, and then they rarely used him. James Cook's there, used high draft capital on him. Obviously, Zach Moss has gone now, but it's just a weird fit. Like with Buffalo, you'd think they might go for some sort of power back rather than another smaller receiving back. So he's definitely got a type, hasn't he, Sean McDermott? I think on the other side, though, it creates a little bit of promise for a guy like Deion Jackson, who flashed a little bit as a pass catcher. I think that's a sneaky one to win from the Colts side of things. Obviously, you've got to temper expectations with no QB, but that's the cheeky one that I'm getting excited for on this one.
Yeah, it's got to be Deion Jackson is the winner out of this. Just yet we yet to see how Nyheim Hines is going to fit into this offense. I think the Bills have been looking for a running back for a while now, and they've settled on Hines. I'd be interested to see if they do pass to Hines and how it's going to affect Singletary, who I just really struggle to know where to project Singletary week to week, whether he's going to have an awesome game or whether he's hardly going to be used. So, this just muddies it right now, but we'll have to wait a week or two for him to get integrated into that offense to see how it plays out. But yeah, slightly uptick on Jonathan Taylor as well. He's certainly having his struggle. So to have that backfield and not have Hines in there now, maybe his usage is going to go even further up. Or Deion Jackson is the winner. It'd be interesting to see if people have kept hold of him after he had them games where he had a decent game where he was the only healthy back, then people dropped him. So I think it's going to be a race to the waiver wire possibly for Jackson.
Yeah, like you said, Kev, I think the Bills definitely got a type over there, haven't they? I was trying to get McKissick during the off season as well. Obviously that didn't materialise, but then getting James Cook in the second round. I think if you selected him in your rookie draft, you probably get a little concerned now that they've selected another running back that can be used in the receiving game. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see how it plays out. A guy that we know can play in the slot as well. So maybe does this impact McKenzie? Does he see some opportunities in the slot moving forward? I mean, whatever the situation, you've got to be excited about a pass catcher that lands with the Bills with Josh Allen in that offense. So I'd say it's a nice move for Nyheim Hines. And as you both nailed, I think Deion Jackson's a big winner here. If he can get a role alongside Jonathan Taylor, then hopefully he managed to keep hold of him. Didn't rush too quickly to drop him back to your waivers, because I think he could potentially have a role moving forward. But with that, I think we've just about covered every trade that went through, all the big ones anyway that have gone through in terms of fantasy today. So with that, we'll crack on with the proper part of the show now, the actual meat and juicy part of this week's show. We're going to be reviewing the obviously all the action that happened in week 8 of the NFL, highlighting players that stood out to us and discussing a couple of trades and establishing a bit of dynasty value. So Ali, we'll come over to you and we'll kick things off with the player you want to talk about first.
Yes, certainly wheels up for this quarterback, this young quarterback, who's now got himself a new wide receiver. We mentioned him earlier in the show. It's Justin Fields. the terrible Chicago Bears. But he is the shining light on that offense right now. He's doing it pretty much all himself. Quarterback 5 on the week against a tough Dallas defense. He pretty much single-handedly kept them in the game. Really quite impressive how he's come on the last few weeks, and he's now up to quarterback 11 on the season. So from where he started the first few weeks, it was really quite shaky. Now up to quarterback 11 and quarterback 2 over the last 4 weeks. So I know there's some bye weeks in there, but there's only one quarterback, Joe Burrow, who scored more points in the last 4 weeks than Justin Fields. So you're incredibly happy where if you've taken him in last year's draft, you had your struggles, your concerns about him, but now he really is flourishing in the offense and doing it with very little wide receiver help. He's averaging 21.71 points per game, which is really decent for someone that's really stepping up in that offense, and he is the definition of a Konami quarterback that we strive for. So now they're adding Chase Claypool. I think what the Bears hierarchy saying is, well, we didn't draft you. We're going to give you a wide receiver now and just see you've got second half of the season to really show us what you can do, whether you can be our quarterback going forward for the next 5-10 years. So it'd be really interesting to see how it works out. And yeah, just he's given you such a rushing floor in fantasy. So week 3, he rushed for 47 yards and that's his lowest in the last 5 weeks. So he's given you such a safe floor, even with that severe lack of weapons in Chicago's Darnell Mooney and a load of nobodies really. But for a team that averages less than 20 pass attempts per game, which is last in the NFL, it'll be really interesting to see whether that now goes up with Chase Claypool, whether they can use him in all different scenarios. And just look at the upcoming schedule. If you do own Justin Fields, it's looking really good. It's a load of green. It's Miami, Detroit, and then Atlanta, who all rank in the bottom third defenses in DVOA. So yeah, if you've got him, he could really help you to compete this year and take you to a championship. And yeah, he's just keeping the Bears in games right now. So is the organization is the confidence growing in Justin Fields? Well, we'll see. But yeah, for me now, I had my concerns with him, but he's now not far away from being quarterback 1 of that 2021 class if he carries on how he is.
Yeah, he's not right good at tackling, is he? He should just down that defender and just had done with it. But yeah, I'll be honest, I've been really impressed with the last 4 weeks from what I've seen. He's in a really tough situation. It gets a little bit better with Chase Claypool arriving. But I'll tell you what it does remind me of, and don't get too carried away with this because I'm not getting carried away either, but it's like a really poor version of sort of a Jalen Hurts situation last year where he's not passing a ton, he's getting his fantasy points through rushing. Obviously, this year's Bears are nowhere near as good as last year's Eagles, who are also unbeaten this season. But it's just like a mini version where he's going to get to the end of the season. There's going to be question marks. Will he keep his job? Will they draft someone, etc.? And I think the fact that he's won 3 games already, which I think Chicago have done well to win that many already, I think he will get a shot next season. And that's when we'll really find out what he's made of. I think long term, there is still question marks from a job security point of view, but I've been really impressed with what he's done last 3 or 4 weeks. And I think he has secured a role into next season with the Bears. And if they can add a big weapon in the off season, then it's going to be even better for his ceiling, I guess, in Dynasty.
Yeah, I'll be honest. To start this season, I was really worried about Justin Fields. This is the start that he made to this year, and I've got him in a few fantasy rosters now. I was starting to hit the panic button a little bit, trying to look at ways of maybe trading him away. But as you said, these past few weeks, he's really turned it around for me, and I'm now seeing that. We knew that he was upside there with Justin Fields with the rushing ability that he's got, but we weren't really seeing it in terms of fantasy production to start the year. But as you say, these last few weeks, turn things around and yeah, like you said, Kev, a little bit like a mini version of Jalen Hurts. I think it's interesting. Obviously, You mentioned Jalen Hurts now in that this past off season, they went out and got somebody like AJ Brown. I believe the Bears have got easily the most cap space going into this off season, so they've got that room to go out and grab a couple of free agent stars to really help this offense. They've obviously made a couple of trades as well in terms of moving away defensive players. So are they looking at maybe addressing that offense, getting some studs around Justin Fields, and then a little bit like Jalen Hurts, let's see what we've got in this quarterback, and then they can reassess it moving on. But if he can do what Jalen Hurts did, I'm not expecting him to get to the heights of Jalen Hurts, but yeah, I think you've got to be excited about the long-term potential for Justin Fields, as I say, with that opportunity of getting some new weapons this off-season and really being able to give it a go. It's been tough, as I mentioned, to start the year with these poor weapons, but slowly but surely, even just adding Chase Claypool, it's crazy to think that I'm actually excited about Chase Claypool, but at least it's some kind of weapon for Fields. So yeah, I think long-term, if you can get through this off-season and as I say, do get some weapons for him, yeah, I think we could be really excited about Justin Fields in fantasy. So with that, got a few trade suggestions for you guys, see what your feelings are, where you're at with Fields at the moment. So I'm going to start off with a one. I'm going to put a caveat and say, let's pretend that you're a rebuilding team, because the guy I'm going to suggest is Trey Lance. So is it Justin Fields or Trey Lance straight up?
I knew when I picked Justin Fields to talk about that you were going to throw in Trey Lance as trade bait for me. I mentioned that Justin Fields is not far away from being a quarterback one of that 2021 class now, but it is because I still have Trey Lance just slightly ahead. Even with the injury, I think there's more certainty of him coming back into that San Francisco 49ers offense next season. I think he's in a much better position than Fields. Fields is playing absolutely fantastic right now, and it's exciting for the future if they do go offense heavy in free agency next year and address it. But I'll just go for Trey Lance just because we know the upside that he brings. And just that certainly that amazing offense he's going to have next year with Christian McCaffrey now as well.
Yeah, you're a naughty boy, Matt. Part of me wants to say Fields just because you've got a bit more flexibility. That you've got more teams you could potentially trade to Justin Fields. So whereas your Trey Lance, it's only going to really appeal to rebuilding sides. But your question is about rebuilding sides. So I think Lance, he does deserve to drop a little bit in rankings based on the injury, but I'll just stick with Lance on this one with your same rebuild.
Oh, interesting. I thought I might have got one of you onto Fields with that, but no, interesting that you both went Lance. So right, the second one, let's see what you're going for this one then. Justin Fields or Aaron Rodgers and a 23-second.
This is very close again. It's a great trade to put in here. And again, even if a couple of weeks ago, I'm still going with Aaron Rodgers, but to be honest, I've just had enough of him. I'm trying to get him off my rosters right now. I'll go for Justin Fields. I'll take the upside of what Fields can bring and what he's already shown this year compared to what Aaron Rodgers is showing, and then just the upside of what they might do next year to add to what Justin Fields has got. So I'll take that, even though it is really close.
Yeah, this was tough for this, Matt. Bloody hell. But I'm going to stick with Fields as well, actually. I just think we've seen glimpses. I'm going to sort of jump on the bandwagon a little bit. And like Alex said, Rodgers, literally, who would buy Rodgers right now? Someone brave.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just shocked that I managed to get Kev to go against a 23 pick here. I know it's not often we get that on the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty show. So yeah, love that I've managed to do that. So the final one, this one, Kev, you might be more interested in Justin Fields and a 23-second or Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, this is interesting because the fact that Lawrence has now got Calvin Ridley as a weapon for next season. But I'm going to take the Field side just for what he's showing now, for the growth that he's got, the opportunity on the Bears, and then to have that second on top, I think just puts the cherry on top for me, and I'll take that side. But I still really like Trevor Lawrence going forward, so it's another close one.
Yeah, let's restore normality. I'll take the pick side, please. Even though me and Ali have agreed on all three, I think it were really tight. So you did a good job there, Matt. There weren't shit quick questions.
Love to hear it, mate. It's always good when you appreciate my trade suggestions. So with that, Kev, we're going to move on to you and the player that you want to talk about first.
Yeah, this is a guy that really flashed this week. He scored 33.7 fantasy points, but he was still only running back 4 in the week, which just shows some of the ceiling performance we had. It's Tony Pollard of the Cowboys. The guys that finished ahead of him this week, Kamara, Henry, and McCaffrey. I could have spoke about them easily, but I just feel this is a more interesting guy to speak about rather than someone that's sort of at peak age, peak value, maybe on the downside. So Pollard he's up to running back 17 on the year, which is really impressive when you factor in that he's basically had 14 touches max in all of his games, apart from 15 in this one. So he's doing a lot with the little he's getting. But thinking of his profile overall, day 3 running back, contract year, you've seen Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy committed to Zeke. I nearly said Mick McCarthy, committed to Zeke. And it just blows your mind. Just come on, just hand over the baton to Tony Pollard. He's doing fantastically well. It's going to be a split backfield this season. If he stays in Dallas, it will be next season because Zeke ain't going anywhere with that contract. So it's just what happens with Pollard in 2023. That's the big question. Does he stay on the Cowboys and you're hoping that he's a better version of a Kareem Hunt in a split backfield? Or are you hoping that he does move to another team and gets a majority role in a split backfield or the league guy? It's going to be a tough one to work this out, but running back 90 in a keep trade cut, I think it's an interesting price, just with the state of the landscape at running back. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think as well.
Yeah, I'll start by saying I wasn't happy, to be honest, that Pollard put this many points up, because in most of the leagues I do have him, I'm rebuilding. So I've got him in my lineups and he's putting up all these huge points. Should have moved off him when I could, but I don't know, maybe holding him might have benefited me because, like you said, his value seems to have gone up a little bit more after this past week. I think everybody in the fantasy community knew what Pollard could do. We've seen it all this year, that he's the explosive guy in this backfield, while he's been all right. He's managed to he does what Zeke does, I guess, and he's that bruiser. Whereas when Pollard comes on, he's just got that wow factor, I think. So it was great to see him get the opportunity of having the lead role and putting up the fantasy points that he did. It's give us fantasy players hope in Pollard if he does manage to get a situation where he is the lead guy. We know the upside there with him, but like you mentioned, Kev, the fact that he's going to be a free agent, this is one of those running backs where I love the potential, but there's also, you've got to worry about next year as well, because we don't know the situation going to land in. We always bang on about the 23 class as well. I think there's a lot of strong running backs coming out of this 23 class as well. So that's even going to more add to the confusion when it comes to running backs and landing spots this offseason. So while you mentioned he's running back 19 on keep trade cut, I think he's definitely getting to that ceiling now where I'm a little bit cautious on his value, because, as I say, there's just a lot of what ifs, I think, as we head into this off season. But just in terms of play, I think Pollard's brilliant. It's been amazing that, as I say, getting that opportunity and doing what he did. It's something we've all been hoping for, and hopefully it does continue. But I think he's got to get away from Dallas, but then at the same time, that 23 class could cause some confusion as well. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Pollard moving forward and his fantasy implication.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Chicago backfield. It's Khalil Herbert we see on the field, clearly more explosive than the plodder Montgomery. I mean, we're just willing the Bears to give him more touch, and it's exactly the same situation with Dallas. It's incredibly stressful being a Pollard owner, not knowing exactly when you can start him. Just start him in the good matchups. But yeah, absolutely smashed it this week. He was in all of my DFS lineup, so big thanks to the old Tony. But yeah, in Dynasty, Matt, you've nailed it. I think RB19 is getting towards this ceiling where I'm not happy to pay that price just because of the uncertainty of what's going to happen with his situation. And then the draft class coming in is full of fantastic players, and we know how high they can grow in value, like a Kenneth Walker right now. Some people are touting as the overall running back 1 in Dynasty. So yeah, I think I'd be holding off at that price, but I'm certainly interested in keeping an eye on what happens next year, because if he was the lead back on a team that was explosive like Dallas, if it was this team, then look out, because he could rise to be an RB1 if he was a lead back. But interestingly, we're going to see what your guys' values are on Tony Pollard right now. So I'll start with this one: Tony Pollard or Miles Sanders?
I mean, I'm wearing an Eagles thing and you've put a Cowboys player up. It's obviously Miles Sanders, but it is really interesting because when you think about these two guys, I believe they came out in the same draft class, but I always feel that Pollard's younger, but no, yeah, go Birds.
To be honest, I found this one really tough. I know Kevin always going to be the homer that he is, stick with it with his guy in Miles Sanders. But I think I'm going to go Tony Pollard. I know I said there's risks on terms of him moving, but at the same time, Miles Sanders, we've heard rumours that the Eagles have been looking for running backs. I believe he's not. There's a potential free agent this offseason as well, in Miles Sanders. So, again, two players that have got different situations where they could be looking at different situations next offseason. So I think I'm going to go with Tony Pollard. What he showed when he was that lead player is exciting. So I'm going to take a chance on Tony Pollard, I think.
Love it. Disagreement straight up. We'll go to trade 2. Tony Pollard or a 23-second and a 24-second.
Yeah, I'll take the seconds on this one. But you got a couple of darts there. I don't think Pollard will ever be your main guy. He's a filling sort of guy, a flex play. So give me the picks and hopefully I can get lucky. Yeah,
begrudgingly, I'm back with Kevin and agreeing with him. I think taking those 2 picks, we've seen it. You see it every year, don't you? But I'm just thinking this year, someone like Dameon Pierce, who you've been able to grab in the second round, I believe this class is stronger in terms of all players. So I think that 23 seconds is going to be value. Probably get you a strong running back and then get another dart like Kev mentioned. So yeah, I think I'd take the 2 dart throws over Pollard.
All right, let's see what we do with the last one. So Tony Pollard and a 23 first, or the RB1 right now, Nick Chubb.
No. Pollard on the pick, please. If it was someone different to Nick Chubb near the top, maybe an Austin Eckler, then you've got me thinking more. But not Chubb.
Yeah, I think all 3 of us, to be honest, aren't we a bit lower than consensus on Nick Chubb? So I think with it being Nick Chubb, I think I'd rather take that 23 first. We mentioned it time after time, strength of that class, and then getting Tony Pollard. While I said there's risk involved with him and where he lands, you never know. We could get that miracle landing spot that we're all hoping for. So, yeah, give me that pick and then Pollard as well and see what happens with him. So, yeah, nailed that one. Got through Pollard and we're going to go on to my selection now. And as I did say, I was obviously at the Jags-Broncos game. Didn't see much football, so I thought, why complicate things? I'll kick things off nice and easy and select a player that really stood out to me in this game, and it's obviously Travis Etienne. I mean, the guy looks brilliant as I was watching him in the crowd. You guys probably saw it a lot more up close and personal while watching it on Red Zones while I was miles back in the stands, but yeah, it was clear to see whenever. Yeah, maybe a little bit blurred for a few beers as well. But yeah, Travis Etienne, the guy stood out completely. We know James Robinson's now gone with that. Travis Etienne's really taken over this backfield, 8% snap share the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Robinson was injured in week 7, didn't play too much. And then, as I said, this past week, they're not being there. 8% snap share, averaging 10 rush attempts per game in the first 7 weeks while Robinson was there. And then this past week, 24 rushing attempts. Obviously, a lot of game situation there. Being in London, we know that when it comes to London games, it tends to be a lot of ground and pound, field goal kind of games. So you could say it was expected. But yeah, Travis Etienne stood out. 25 fantasy points, finishes the RB7 on the week. He's now moved up to the RB19 overall. And it was interesting to see when I went on Keep Trade Cut to see where his value has got to. It's gone right up to RB6 now, which I was a bit surprised about, to be honest, seeing him that high over guys like I've mentioned, Austin Eckler, players like that. So really interested to see that everyone's getting super excited about Travis Etienne now. And as I say, it was just night and day, knowing that Jermichael Hasty was the other running back there. It was clear to see which one was Etienne and which one was Hasty. Even in my drunken state, I could tell who was the main guy, because I mean, Travis Etienne, so explosive, just unreal, ripping off some huge runs, whereas Jermichael Hasty just couldn't really get anything going. I mean, always surprised Travis Etienne. A first round pick by the Jags. Yeah, I'm just going to be honest. I'm so happy for Travis Etienne. Kev, I know you'll be absolutely buzzing as well. I know you was high on Travis Etienne when he came into the NFL. It's great to see him back healthy. Yeah, I think it's definitely wheels up now for Travis Etienne, as I say, having that backfield to himself. Potentially exciting Jag offense. Give me Travis Etienne, baby.
Yeah, I don't really like talking about this guy since I made that terrible trade with Kev last week. It's not really worked out, but it's a good job I've still got a few shares of him, because he's absolutely on a tear right now. Just looking at the stats, the last 4 weeks since he's been given sort of the keys to this offense, he's averaging 7.3 yards per carry on 58 rushing attempts. So he's absolutely dominating the defenses. Just an absolutely unreal efficiency. And as you mentioned, he's now up to 80% snap percentage. So it is his offense. There's no real threat from Jermichael Hasty at all. His wheels up for ETN. Wheels up for Kev's offense now that he's got ETN. Again, if someone now who's up to RB6, he's going to be really difficult to trade for unless you're a Muppet like me. But yeah, certainly if you've got him, it's fantastic time for him.
Yeah, maybe RB6 is too low. We'll have to see, won't we? I mean, first of all, I'm not surprised it looked good with NBA goggles on that. But I assure you, it wasn't just you. Like I was at home watching it, and he looked mightily fine. So no issues with that. It's just making me feel good that the fact that I had ETN over Najee Harris, and sort of maybe a year ago I was looking like a bit of a mug, but it's good to see that that was one good take I've got actually. It's all falling his way at the moment with James Robinson going and this offense looking good. The news about Ridley coming in's got to help him with more scoring opportunities as well. So really, really pleased as an ETN owner. But that wouldn't stop me selling him if his price continues to rise into that top 5, which I think it will actually, because he's fantastic and he's risen so much already. Just got to stay healthy. So a couple of trades for you. First one is Travis Etienne and a 24 first, or DeAndre Swift and a 23 second.
God, tough one to start here, Kev. I'm going to go with Travis Etienne and that 24 first, I think, which is shocking because obviously I think we were all super high on DeAndre Swift, but I just feel like with the injuries over the last couple of years, really, with Swift, it's just starting to become a little bit frustrating now if you own him. I think while Travis Etienne's obviously got that risk as well, being a running back, I think the 24 first, while it is a year removed, it is a first round pick. I'm just, as I say, it's dead close, this one. So well done to you, Kev. But I'm going Travis Etienne and 24 first.
Yeah, I think I just about agree as well. It's one that I looked at quite a few times, and Swift is frustrating for being a Swift owner because Jamal Williams has taken away so many touchdowns. He's got 8 rushing on the season now, so that's frustrating. The injuries are frustrating. Give me ETN, who's on an absolute tear, and then that first next year.
Interesting stuff, boys. Trade number 2, we've got ETN or Kenny Walker.
This one I'm going to go for Kenneth Walker. I think what he's done this year has been amazing. I was high on him when he came in this year. So I think being on that offense, we know the Seahawks love to run the ball as well. So give me Kenneth Walker. But again, it is another close one. Yeah,
give me Kenny. I'm always going to go for Kenny. So I love Kenneth Walker coming out. Got him in a few places. Traded him away for an absolute haul in a couple of spots. Just give me Walker. But it is close where they are now in Dynasty value.
Anyone called Kenny Ali?
Exactly.
For it's worth, I'd have took ETN for the 3 down upside on that one. And then trade 3, we've got ETN or Damian Pierce and a 23 second.
I've been burnt once by these day 3 running backs. I ain't doing it again. So give me Travis Etienne, even though Damian Pierce has looked fantastic this year. I just think, Travis Etienne, he's looked better. That's all it comes down to, really. And while these are 23 second there, it's not enough for me. I think Damian Pierce has been slightly overvalued. So, give me Travis Etienne, please.
Yep, agrees. A full house. I think ETN with his 3 down work, where he is in the offense, how good the offense is right now, and next season the Texans are a bit of a mess. Don't like to put too much stock into that offense. But certainly looking great. But I'll take ETN. It's not the 23 seconds. Not quite enough.
Love it. So with that, we'll now move on to another running back. We've had 2 running backs that have been showing up lately, but Ali, we're going to go to you and a running back that might be struggling a little bit recently.
Yeah, it's Jonathan Taylor, who was the unanimous running back 1 in a tier of his own, really, coming into the season. and we'll have a little new segment on the show. We'll have a quiz question. But what does Jonathan Taylor have more of this season, boys? I think you might know the answer, but we'll go with it anyway. Is it rushing touchdowns or is it fumbles lost?
Well, I've got a lot of Jonathan Taylor. I know he's only got one rushing touchdown this year, so the fact that I know that he fumbled the ball this week, I'm going to take a punt that it's fumbles.
You've not put answer on show sheets, so I'm not sure.
Exactly, but it would be a difficult one. Yeah, you're right, Matt. It's 2 fumbles lost and then just 1 rushing touchdown. Looking at the stats, I'm absolutely appalled to see that he's averaging less points per game than the Bears backup, like you should say, running back Khalil Herbert right now. Last year he was absolutely fantastic, averaging 22 points per game on the season. This year he's almost half that, 11.9. So a lot of people, especially in redraft, absolutely moaning about him. The fact that they've taken him 101 over McCaffrey. Yeah, that's quite hilarious. And last year he had 10 games where he had 100 rushing yard games. This year he's got 1, which was against Houston. Well, me or you could have a 100-yard game against Houston, I reckon. So yeah, it really is pretty uncertain times for Jonathan Taylor right now. If you owned him coming into the season, you got to think that you were a contender. He's not putting up the points right now. That Indy offense is looking a bit of a mess. Obviously, with the new quarterback coming in, Sam Ehlinger, is that his name? At quarterback, Matt Ryan obviously benched for the rest of the season. The upside you've got now is there's no Naheem Hines that's been traded away, so it's him and Deion Jackson by the looks of it going forward. But the quarterback is more of a rushing quarterback. So he had 33 rushing touchdowns in college and 1,900 rushing yards for Texas. So completely different type of quarterback to Matt Ryan, who's happy just to dump it off to the running back. So I think the floor each week is lower for Jonathan Taylor just because we don't know how many points this Colts offense is going to put up, and it really is struggling right now. But the fact that you haven't got Naheem Hines means that it's going to be pretty much all Jonathan Taylor. So he's going to give you some sort of floor. But just in terms of his dynasty value, I know it's pretty plummeting right now. He was worth probably 3 first this time last year. I actually saw him go in a league where someone paid 4 first for him, which might have been a bit crazy, but that's where we were with Jonathan Taylor. Right now, with his value on the decline, is he worth 2 first? Is he worth less than 2 first? We'll perhaps find out in a little while. But yeah, he's certainly not in a tier of his own right now at the RB Dynasty ranks. There's some people that have people over him, or some people in the same tier as him. So has he been overtaken? Well, perhaps you'll find out on a ranking show coming soon.
Ooh,
it's a bit of a tease, but yeah, certainly Jonathan Taylor's struggling, and if you own him, you're wondering what you got to do with him.
Yeah, I feel a bit of a mug on this one because it was my running back 1 in the off season, and it was in a tier on his own, and it was one of the weakest running back 1s overall from last season. Like he's at his points per game, his total points compared to other running back 1s previously was really low. So yeah, it's took us 8 weeks to correct it, but I think having a big tier 1 does make the most sense. And to sort of split if you've got, say, like 10 rosters, just rostering a couple of shares in each of these guys, because we've seen how fragile the position is this year. I'm a little bit worried about Taylor just because of the situation at QB, what's happening there. It was going to be probably a new head coach, I'd imagine, the way he's been undermined by the owner this season, saying that you must sit Matt Ryan and play this scrub QB for the rest of the season. It's probably worse than Carolina's situation at QB, which is crazy. Warning signs for Taylor. It would become a value at a certain point, but yeah, I'm still seeing him pretty highly ranked in most of the places I do my research.
Yeah, there's definitely some alarm bells ringing right now. Like you mentioned, the situation at quarterback. I mean, this offensive line. What has happened to it? I mean, last season looked amazing. This year, can't protect the quarterback. Can't help Jonathan Taylor in the run game. It's just all falling apart, really. And as you mentioned, the fact that they've changed now quarterback. I guess they've got to kind of lean on Jonathan Taylor a little bit to start games, but as soon as games start running away, it was what happens with Jonathan Taylor. Now, maybe with Nyheim Hines gone, maybe you just start seeing a little bit more usage in the receiving game. It's something that we've been crying out for, really, all of us that have Jonathan Taylor in fantasy. So I do think it is going to be interesting to see if he does start taking up a little bit of a larger role in the receiving game. But yeah, definitely some alarm bells ringing. A little bit annoyed. I think it's the typical thing, isn't it? When a guy reaches the RB1 status, I mean, the only way to go really is down. So I feel like, yeah, we should maybe learn from his mistakes. And while it feels stupid, it felt stupid saying to trade away Jonathan Taylor last off season. Maybe the signs were there, like I've mentioned, the fact that he wasn't really blown us away in terms of his fantasy production. I think it's just because he was the clear running back one that we all got excited. So yeah, maybe looking forward. That's something we should look to do and capitalise when these running backs hit that peak value of being the running back one. So yeah, you mentioned now there's a big tier in terms of at the top of the running back ranking. So I'll be interested to see where you value him in terms of these trades. And we'll kick things off with Jonathan Taylor or Breece Hall and a 23 third.
Yeah, this is close, and I think me and Kev might even disagree on this one. I'm going to take just Jonathan Taylor just because Breece Hall with that major injury, we're not sure how he's going to come back, whether he's going to look the same guy. I mean, the chances are 90% he's going to be the same guy, and this would look silly if you didn't take Breece right now. But I'm just going to take Jonathan Taylor, the healthy back, the fact that there's no Nyheim Hines there. I don't think this offense can get any worse than it is right now. So they hopefully will sort things out. The offensive line will hopefully start playing better heading into the back half of this season and into next season. So I'll just take Jonathan Taylor. Had it been a 23 second, it would have made it really interesting because we like the guys that could be there in the second. But I'll lean Jonathan Taylor. But that is, yeah, seriously close because they could be almost in that same tier together.
Yeah, I found this one really tricky because you've got JT who you can use now. You've got Breece who you can't really use. Well, you definitely can't use until next season. What am I on about? So I'll lean Jonathan Taylor just because he gives you a bit more flexibility. But yeah, I pretty much summed it up. If it was a second, give me some Breece.
Right, and Ali mentioned a little bit earlier in terms of what he's worth in terms of dynasty picks. So would you take Jonathan Taylor or a 23 first and a 24 first?
Yeah, so I think a lot of this would depend on situation. I know it's a bit of a cop out of an answer, but you have to look at the picks to start off with and try. You can now start to try and project whereabouts that first is going to be, whether it's going to be front half or back half. And if it's going to be a front half pick, I'm probably really interested in the picks. If it's someone who won the league last year, who's dominating again this year, I'll take Jonathan Taylor. I think 2 first is probably his value right now, but I think it all depends on the situation. Whether you're contending, I think Jonathan Taylor can only get a bit better head into second part of the season, or if you're rebuilding, I'll take the picks.
Yeah, you're going to get me to go against the picks again here. Taking Jonathan Taylor just because I think I just think he's too low, to be honest, that price, where you've seen him come from to where he is now. His value can still go back up, I think. So, yeah, I'll slightly lean Taylor and hope that his value does go back up a little bit.
Right, let's see if I can get it to budge with the final one. It's Jonathan Taylor or Austin Eckler and a 23 second this time.
Again, it's going to be situation. I think if you're looking like you're going to be a contender this year, I'm happy to trade away Jonathan Taylor, trade for Eckler, 27-year-old running back, and get that 23 second. Who could be, you could take a half decent running back, or even use it to trade for running back. That's the situation where I am. I think value wise, I think it's close, but I'd take Jonathan Taylor value wise. But if I was a contender, I think I'd be happy to trade Jonathan Taylor away if I was going to get Eckler and get a second if I think I could compete and win the championship this year.
Eckler in a second for me. Like Eckler's killing Taylor this season, points per game. Could probably do it again next season. So yeah, give me JT. Don't give me JT actually. Give me Eckler in a second.
I thought you might go for that one, Kev. I know you love for Austin Eckler, so I'm glad to see that you went the way that I thought. So with that, Kev, we're gonna stick with you and go to the next player you want to discuss.
Yeah, you spoke about my love for Austin Eckler. I'm developing a bit of a man crush on this guy as well. Phillies own AJ Brown, wide receiver 1 on the week in 9.6 fantasy points, 3 touchdowns against the Steelers, which puts him to wide receiver 7 on the year, despite him already having his bye week, and it's become the best fantasy season of his career. A couple of metrics that really stand out to me are target share and air yard share, where he's top 5 or 6 in each of those, which they're just really sexy metrics when you think about alpha wide receivers. Thinking about sort of the situation and sort of elite QBs, you've got Allen, who got Diggs, you've got Tua, maybe not elite, who got Tyreek Hill, and you've got Hurts, who's now got AJ Brown. So we should see more of this. I think these young QBs getting these weapons to really see what you've got in them. But as a Philly fan, I'm hoping he has a bit of a Terrell Owens effect, with the way he plays, the run after catch, the stupid celebrations he's been doing. But I just hope it's a bit of a happier ending for AJ Brown than it was for T.O. back in the day. Showing me age there. I really like the fact that Brown's tied down till 2027. The last question is, when will we re-sign Hurts? How long will it be before getting him tied down as well? Wide receiver 3 at keep trade cut. Personally, I think that's bang on. I think that's really fair. Can he jump into tier 1? I think out of the guys outside of tier 1, a lot of people say CD Lamb, but he's yet to command a target share consistently that would give me the hope that he can be the main man all the time consistently. So, yeah, if anybody's going to do it, it's AJ Brown for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how we always get these connections in terms of quarterbacks and the friendships with the wide receivers and how they develop that chemistry. But I mean, we should have known this. Hurts and AJ Brown being good friends for years. I know Hurts was super excited when AJ Brown was announced going to the Eagles. So we should have known really that connection that they've had for years was always going to materialize on the field as well. So yeah, it's been great seeing AJ Brown doing what he's done this year. I think he's a guy that we've all been fairly high on. Obviously struggled with injuries over the last couple of years, seems to drop in and out of games with these tough injuries, but it's great to see him healthy again. Jalen Hurts throwing the ball a ton with the Eagles now has only been beneficial to AJ Brown. And like you said, Kev, the fact that he's wide receiver 3 now and keep trade cut, I think that's spot on. You mentioned, can he jump into that tier 1? I think it's going to be tough getting into that tier with somebody like Justin Jefferson, but I mean, if things carries on, if it signs a long-term deal and they can continue this great chemistry that they've got together, then I don't see why he can't creep into that tier 1. So yeah, super excited by AJ Brown, and I can't believe I'm excited by a Phillies stack, but sign me up.
Yeah, go Birds. Wide receiver 3, I think for me, I think that is his ceiling. I think the other 2 ahead of him are clear. I don't see him jumping in there, so if it's an opportunity, if people value him like that, then it's an interesting. I'm happy to sell him at wide receiver 3. I'm also happy if people see him closer to Jefferson and Chase to use him to springboard up to one of those 2 guys. I think that's a good way of looking at it right now. But we'll see what your guys' value is on AJ Brown with these 3 trades. So would you go AJ Brown or Jalen Waddle?
AJ Brown, please. Wide receiver 3.
Yeah, definitely. I think AJ Brown, he stands out. Waddle obviously got Tyreek Hill, whereas AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, who I think is great. But yeah, AJ Brown is that main guy. So give me AJ Brown.
All right. AJ Brown or 23 first and a 24 first?
Go Birds.
Short and sweet, I love it. Again, I think I'm going to begrudgingly agree. I think what AJ Brown's doing is fantastic. So give me that known asset in AJ Brown, please.
All right, final one is AJ Brown and a 23 first or Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, it's closer as this one, but I'm taking that pick. I like picks, so I do really see the upside in AJ Brown making that leap eventually. It's not me being a homer. I'm honestly not an homer all the time, I promise.
I mean, I'm going to agree with Kevin. I'm definitely not home when it comes to the Eagles, but I just think, as I say, I still think Justin Jefferson is in that tier above, but I feel like AJ Brown's getting closer and closer. So the fact that you can get a 23 first on top, I'd rather, if I had Justin Jefferson, pivot down, get an AJ Brown and get that 23 first. And yeah, with that, we've smashed through that one. So we're now going to move on to a guy. We've started with AJ, and we're now going to move on to his fellow acronym name. I don't know what would you call that too. Anyway, whatever it is, we're on to DJ Moore next. And I mean, DJ Moore is taken off. I mean, what's been the cause of it? Is it the fact that McCaffrey got moved away and opened up opportunities for DJ Moore? or is it PJ Walker coming along and developing some kind of chemistry with DJ Moore? I mean, we have PJ and Duncan. We've now got the new duo. We've got PJ and DJ, baby. So, I mean, it's been great what DJ Moore's managed to do over the last couple of weeks. 23.5 fantasy points per game over the last 2 weeks. And the big thing that's standing out to me, the thing that we've been crying out, mentioning for years when it comes to DJ Moore, ever since coming to the NFL, he's now got 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks, putting him on 3 for the year. I mean, the fact that he's got 14 in the last 4 years, I mean, that's something we've got to get excited about, lads. I think the fact that he's got 2 touchdowns in 2 weeks, he's easily on course now for his best touchdown season of his career, and that's just off 2 touchdowns. So definitely something to be excited about. And then as well, just looking at this year, we've got the 8th easiest strength of schedule for wide receivers. So hopefully it can continue. I think long term, we have still got to be concerned about the quarterback situation. While PJ Walker's looked good this year, I don't think it's the long term solution. But the fact that they've moved Christian McCaffrey now, it seems to be signaling that the Panthers looking to rebuild and maybe put themselves in a position to get a quarterback by not winning games, basically, and they're 2-6 now. So I think they are in that position where they could potentially be getting one of these top quarterbacks in the upcoming class. But yeah, when it comes to DJ Moore, I think long term we know that there's talent there. The guy's had 3 1,000-yard seasons over the last 3 years. I think now he's really got to step up. He is now that guy on that Carolina offense. For the last few years, it's been Christian McCaffrey carrying that offense. I think DJ Moore now has really got to step up and be that guy over at Carolina. So if they do get a quarterback, he's going to be that main guy moving forward. So yeah, long term, I am excited by DJ Moore. Still clinging on to the hopes. It seems like a common thing, doesn't it, when it comes to Dynasty and DJ Moore? But I do think long term, we should still be excited by DJ Moore.
Yeah, we tend to say this every season. We're excited long term for DJ Moore to show his potential. But yeah, absolutely flourishing right now. And I think it's good to see that the organisation came out early on to say we're definitely not trading DJ Moore. He's a key piece for our offense going forward. We're going to build around him, and just look what's happened. He's absolutely smashing it right now. So yeah, great for DJ Moore owners. I think we know the talent's there to be a wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. So yeah, fantastic for him.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels between DJ Moore and Dynasty that you guys mentioned then about building around wide receivers. It seems to be the right thing to do, but also about Dynasty managers, I always say next year's our year sort of thing. I always just never really take accountability. It's always going to be next year when it hits. So it feels a little bit like that with DJ Moore, even though some of his metrics suggest that he is ready to explode when he gets in the right situation, which he's been really unlucky with, to be honest. Like I've said before, if he was in Dallas, then he would be in that tier 1. There'd be no debates. But sort of thinking about tier 1 now, it brings us nicely on to trade number 1, where it's DJ Moore and a 23 first, or Justin Jefferson and a 24 second.
Definitely a tough one. As I say, I love DJ Moore. That 23 class is special, but I just think Justin Jefferson, he is the man at the moment. I think long term he is going to be the man on an exciting Vikings offense that seems to be passing the ball even more this year. So while it is tempting to go for that 23 first and DJ Moore, I think I'm going to take Justin Jefferson because the fact I'm getting that 24 second as well, which is a potential dart throw that could turn into something. So yeah, I'm going to go Justin Jefferson, I think.
Yep. Give me Justin Jefferson. Absolutely love Jefferson. If I could get him in every league, I would. Happy to pay that to get Jefferson on my side.
Cool. Next one's a layup: DJ Moore or Michael Pittman.
Yeah, this one's DJ Moore for me. 2 players that are in uncomfortable situations in terms of the quarterback play. So I'm just taking it purely on talent, and I think DJ Moore, I think he's the man over Pittman. So give me DJ Moore.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's DJ Moore just on talent alone. I've always been a bit lower on Pittman, and I'll just go with the talent, and hopefully the situation gets better, or just carries on how it is right now.
Good. And last one, DJ Moore or Christian Kirk and a 24 first.
Tugging on the heartstrings of this one, Kev, with putting Kirk in there, but I am going to go with DJ Moore. I think super excited by him as a talent, so I'm going to take a chance on him getting a quarterback finally.
Yeah, give me DJ Moore because Christian Kirk's going to be the wide receiver 2 on that team next year.
Love it. And with that brings us to the end of the show. We reviewed, obviously, week 8 of the NFL season. So with that, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Wildcard. Subscribe to our YouTube by searching Fantasy Wildcard Podcast Network. Plus, if you could leave us a 5-star podcast review, we really appreciate it. It helps us grow to a wider audience. Join us every Tuesday for the podcast, every Wednesday for the stream of the show. Thank you once again. Have a good one.